Chapter 1, Section 3 is more simplifying radicals. And again, I'm going to do these by the factor tree. 98, well, it ends in an even number, so we know it can be divided by 2. And that will be 2 times 49. And then the 49 will become a 7 times 7. And I'm going to cross that out. And now you have this pair that's under the radical. So that comes out. And you're left with 7 square root of 2. And that may not seem like it's simplified to you, but it's simplified because you've gotten this perfect square or this this pair out of here. B, 128, ends in an 8. So I'm going to do 2 times 64. And then that 64, I'm going to break into an 8 times 8. You can keep going on this one, but see how we have that pair right there? Since we have a pair, we can take it out of the square root sign, and you have 8 square root of 2. 48, again, that ends in an 8. So I'm going to do 2 times 24. The 24, I'm going to break into a 4 times 6, and then cross that one out. And then the 4 will become a 2 times 2, and the 6 will become a 2 times 3. We have a pair of 2's here, and then a pair of 2's here. So that will be 2 times 2 times the square root of 3. 2 times 2 is 4, and then square root of 3. Letter D, our number is a little bit smaller, so hopefully this one will be a little bit easier. 12, I'm going to break it up into a 2 times 6. And then that 6, I'm going to break up into a 2 times 3. That is all still underneath the square root sign. And so this becomes 2 square root of 3. 72, since it ends in 2, I know it's even. So that's going to be 2 times 36. Think about 36. Think about picking those next 2 numbers strategically. You could do a 9 and a 4. You could do 3 and a 12. I'm not going to pick those 2. I'm going to pick 6 times 6. And the reason I did that is because then I have this pair, and I can end up with 6 square root of 2. Square root of 121 is 11. And since there's one pair, that's a perfect square. 96 ends with an even number. So I think that's going to be 2 times 48. 48, I'm going to break into a 2 times 24. I'm going to bring these down. 24 will be a 4 times 6. And then the 4 becomes a 2 times 2. And the 6 becomes a 2 times 3. So underneath the square root sign, here's a pair, here's a pair. So we have 2 2's out in front. This 2 times 3 is still underneath. And you end up with 4 square root of 6. 147 doesn't end in an even number, so it's not even. I'm going to try to divide that by 3. And 147 becomes 3 times 49. 49 can be broken down into a 7 times 7. And since we have a pair there, it becomes 7 square root of 3. And I probably should have put some boxes around my answers here. Sorry about that. Just to show you exactly where the answers are. Letter A, exact same thing we've been doing, only now we have a number out in front, so that I have to be a little more careful about my square roots here. The 8 we're going to break down into the 4 times 2, and then the 4 we're going to break down into the 2 times 2 times 2. And that is all still underneath the square root sign. These two are a pair, so that comes out in front. 3 times 2. This one has no pair or partner, so he stays under there. And you end up with 6 square root of 2. Letter B, we can either multiply these or break them up. And I think I'm going to break them up first. That becomes a 3 times 5 and a 2 times 5. And all of that is still under the square root sign. Those two are a pair. These two stay underneath here. 3 times 2 is 6. Letter C, that 27, I'm going to break into a 3 times 9. And then that 9, I'm going to break into a 3 times 3. Here we have a pair that comes out in front. Here we have a pair that comes out in front. And so our final answer then is 9. And if we had multiplied that, 3 times 27 is the square root of 81. And some of you might be able to look at it that way. Letter D, the 32, I'm going to break into a 2 times 16. In that 16, I'm going to break into a 4 times 4. So that is a pair. Comes out in front of the square root sign. 5 times 2 is 10. Letter E, I'm going to mark the 3 in front of the square root sign. 27, I'm going to break into a 3 times 9. The 6, I'm going to break into a 3 times 2. And then that 9 can be broken down again. The 9 becomes a 3 times 3. And then we still have the 3 and we still have the 2. Here we have one pair and a second pair. So this 3 stays out in front. This pair of 3s comes out in front. This pair of 3s comes out in front. And then this lonely guy right here stays all alone underneath the square root sign. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times the square root of 2. Letter F. Think about this 12. You can break it into a couple different things. We have a 6 here already, so I'm going to change that into a 6 times a 2. And then, since I have that pair, 3 times 6 out in front. and that becomes 18 square root of 2. 3 and the 2 are out in front of the square root sign. The 4 and the 8 are underneath. So the 4, I'm going to change into a 2 times 2. The 8, I'm going to change into a 4 times 2. And then I need to break that down again. The 4 becomes a 2 times 2. And we have 2 pairs. So the 6 is out in front. The 2 comes out in front. The 2 comes out in front. And this one stays underneath. 6 times 2 is 12. Times 2 is 24 square root of 2. And letter H, I'm just going to rewrite this one because I write kind of big and I ran out of space. That 18, I'm going to change into a 6 times 3. And I kind of purposefully did that because now I have a pair of 3s, so that can come out in front. Oops, that's not equal. 3 and the 5 are out in front, and then you have the square root of 6, so you end up with 15 square root of 6. Five square root of 8. That 8, I'm going to break down into a 4 times 2. That 4, I'm going to break into a 2 times 2. And then I have this pair, so that comes out in front. And this one is alone, so it stays underneath. 5 times 2 is 10 times the square root of 2. Letter J, we have a 3 right here. So I'm going to change that 30 into a 3 times 10. These 2 are a pair, so they come out from underneath the square root, and you have 3 square root of 10. Think about this 15. We have to break it into something. I'm going to break it into a 3 times 5. These two things are a pair, so you end up with 3 square root of 5. Letter L, I'm going to break that 40 into a 5 times 8. That 8, we're going to break into a 4 times 2. And then that 4, we're going to break into a 2 times 2. Now we have this set of pairs, so the 5 comes out in front. We have this set of pairs, so the 2 comes out in front. And then this guy here is all alone. He stays under the square root sign. 10 square root of 2. Letter M, that 27, I'm going to break into a 9 times 3. And then we have square root of 2. That 9 becomes a 3 times 3. This is a pair, so it comes out in front. These two are not pairs. 3 times 2 is 6. So you end up 12 square root of 6. Letter N, That 32, I'm going to break into a 16 times 2. Here I have a pair, but this 16 can also be broken into a pair. So in this case, everything comes out from underneath the square root sign, and you will have a 3 times a 4 times a 2. 3 times 4 is 12, times 2 is 24. 5 times 2 is 10. The 4, I'm going to break into a 2 times 2. That 8, I'm going to break into a 4 times 2. This 4, I can break into another 2 times 2. This can come outside, this can come outside. So you will have 10 times 2 times 2, and then that guy is all alone under the radical sign. 10 times 2 is 20, times 2 is 40, times the square root of 2. And letter P, that 18, I'm going to rewrite as a 9 times 2. The 4, I'm going to rewrite as a 2 times 2. This 9 can be broken down again. So the 3's come out. The 2's come out. 2 times 3 is 6, times 5 is 30, and then that 2 is all alone under the square root sign.